In a previous interview, you talked about struggling throughout the season. So what changed and how are you able to turn the page so that the end of the season went a lot better?
The story of Lexie Hull is about more than simply basketball. It's about perseverance, survival, and a second opportunity that nearly never materialized. Her WNBA career was on the verge of collapse at one time. She was quietly wondering whether her dream was vanishing before it had even had a chance to take off, while battling for minutes on the court and the rumors that she might not be cut out for the league.
What is it like playing off of Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston?
I mean, they make my job really easy, right? It's awesome. And it's really cool to see all of them just grow.
Then everything changed when Caitlin Clark entered the scene. There is more to what transpired between these two athletes than spectacular plays or eye-catching statistics. It's about a connection, a spark, and an epiphany that provided Lexie Hull with just what she needed at the right time. With her evident influence and burgeoning celebrity status, Caitlin Clark did more than just draw attention to herself. She also helped those around her, including Lexie. However, what specifically did Caitlin do to rescue her career? On the court, was it a collaboration that changed everything? A private discussion that bolstered Lexie's will to persevere? Or was it the way Clark's arrival changed the Fever organization as a whole, providing players like Hull with a stage on which to finally establish themselves? Fans have been raving about these questions, and today we're delving deeply into the narrative that goes beyond the game itself. Because what Lexie discloses isn't merely a tribute to Caitlin Clark, but rather an honest, heartfelt look at what it takes to make it in the WNBA. Where one season may make or break you, you won't view her career the same way after hearing her side of the tale, I promise. So stay tuned and watch till the very end. Because this is the kind of story that proves sometimes the right teammate can change everything. The weight of expectations. It was not intended for Lexie Hull to disappear. She came into the WNBA with the radiance of a Stanford champion, the type of player who seemed destined to influence a team's destiny after being selected 6th overall in the 2022 WNBA draft. However, reality struck hard. Hull was stranded at the far end of the bench rather than being the weapon of choice. Her name was seldom ever called under Christy Side's method, and she was passed over in the rotation by role players with shorter resumes. Every splinter collecting game served as a public reminder that a commitment is meaningless if it cannot be demonstrated on the field. There is pressure of its own to be a top draft pick. Coaches, teammates, and even fans demand quick results. Rumors were becoming more widespread by the start of the 2024 season. Was Hull a wasted pick? Is she one of those athletes who excels in college but never makes it to the professional ranks? That cloud of uncertainty felt oppressive to someone who had always been in a leadership position. Long before Hull ever donned an Indiana Fever uniform, her battle began. In her family, basketball was more than simply a sport. It was the language of the household. With her twin sister at her side, Lexie grew up in a home where every practice, drill, and game had an advantage because her father played collegiately and her grandfather played. She wasn't going to leave quietly after her upbringing. The WNBA grind was putting her to the test like never before, even though she was born with grit. The instant everything changed, Caitlin Clark entered the state of Indiana. Clark was a force for generations, not just another rookie. The Fever were energized by her scoring, vision, and confidence, which also gave the team a new identity. All of a sudden, guys who had previously appeared aimless had a new purpose. The locker room had faith, and the offense had rhythm. This was more than just the arrival of a superstar for Lexie Hull. A door was ready to open. She had the opportunity to shine again and regain the confidence that had earned her a first-round pick by playing with Clark. Hull's story changed around the middle of the season. Fans dubbed her Clutch, since she was no longer an unknown name and was now a player they trusted in crucial situations. Every shot and defensive stand demonstrated that she wasn't going to silently drift into oblivion, and she now had the opportunity to take back the minutes that had previously slipped away. The season that began as one of frustration turned into one of atonement. It wasn't an easy fall for Lexie Hull to go from being a Stanford standout to playing hardly any minutes in Indiana. She was accustomed to being the one at Stanford, the player who always had the ball in her hands and whom teammates turned to when things got tight. She was suddenly waiting for slivers of playing time in the WNBA while riding the bench. Such a change is a mental battle as much as a skill test. Imagine becoming a champion's leader and then being a spectator as others replace you. It takes grit to survive that. The Fever themselves were in decline, which added to the strain. With 1 victory against 8 losses, the team had a terrible start. Indianapolis was agitated, as headlines criticized anything from broken chemistry to sloppy rotations. It was the type of environment where uncertainty quickly crept in. Hull was fighting for more than just minutes. She was struggling to maintain faith as the locker room as a whole seemed like it was closing in. Hull was not going to shatter. Rather than pouting, she focused more on honing her skills, making her jump shots cleaner, cutting more accurately, and being ready for the few opportunities she would have. That mindset is crucial for athletes who are on the periphery. A career can be turned around by a single spark or hot streak. Then, Caitlin Clark arrived, which was the turning point in everything. Like a switch, the energy changed direction. Practices became intense all of a sudden. Arenas began to fill up with people. Indiana became a must-see basketball team, and no longer a team that people made jokes about. Clark provided more than just hype. She pushed everyone in her vicinity to put out a higher standard of work and responsibility. Hull found herself in a fantasy situation as Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston shared the floor. These were more than just celebrities. They drew defenders in. She never thought she would be able to spot up in clean lanes, get passes, and suddenly find herself open on cuts. She felt like a weapon for the first time in her professional career, not an afterthought. Clark's genius extended beyond his ability to score goals. She had a vision. Like a quarterback, she was able to read defenses and thread impossible passes into areas that only her teammates could reach. Since the ball could find her at any time, Hull had to quickly adapt. Every sprint, cut, and hustle play suddenly mattered. Once feeling bogged in the muck, the offense found rhythm all of a sudden. Knowing that there might soon be genuine opportunities, Hull was cutting with intention rather than merely to maintain floor space. However, Clark's influence went beyond tactics. She made people feel better. She had no qualms about challenging teammates, encouraging competition, or reminding them to maintain their confidence. Leadership like that spreads. Hull, who had been apprehensive, felt more confident now that she realized she was no longer invisible. Clark's statement, "You've got the next one," was more than just support. It was conviction. The outcomes came next. The Fever began to appear threatening as they developed into a competitive offense. Hull found her love for the game again as her game took off. In addition to opening doors on the court, playing alongside a generational talent offered her career a boost. Work in the dark, shine in the light. In addition to adding highlight plays, Caitlin Clark's presence changed the game's rules. Her spirit of competition was infectious. She insisted on immediate repairs whenever a set malfunctioned. No justifications, no shortcuts. Everyone else had to catch up to her because of her unrelenting edge. All of a sudden, being average was unacceptable. Coaches saw that the teeth were back in the practices, the energy changed, the speed increased, and everyone on the roster had to step up or risk falling behind. That environment meant the world to Hull. She improved her skills until she deserved to be in the spotlight and stopped blending into the background. There was more to the Fever's winning streak than just the scoreboard. It was a matter of perspective for Hull. She was participating in a renaissance, in addition to fulfilling her dream of being a professional basketball player. After years of hardship, the Fever's vitality seemed different now. Road games felt like home games all of a sudden. Empty seats were replaced by sold-out arenas. Fans gathered in large numbers, brandishing signs, chanting names, and dressed in Fever clothing. Hull was enjoying every second of Indiana basketball's comeback after years of disillusionment. When Hull decided to focus on the work and quit worrying about the attention, she had a personal breakthrough. She focused twice as much on the little things: precise cuts, precise footwork, and reliable jumpers. Indiana practiced for a whole month during the Olympic break, and Hull used it as her own private lab. Every day, coaches kept tabs on shooting percentages. It was annoying to some gamers. It was motivation for Hull. Not only was it encouraging to see her numbers rise, but it also demonstrated that the effort was having an impact. She wasn't just another bench option by the time the season's second half arrived. Her reputation as a dependable offensive weapon had been established. Playing with celebrities like Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark brought about one of the biggest changes. Players like Hull now had room because defenses leaned so strongly in their direction. Cut lanes open. Wide examines the basket. Clear opportunity to catch and shoot. And Hull exploited it. Her percentages went up. Her self-assurance surged. She was now a part of the flow and no longer felt pressured to maximize a single shot here or there. She provided the Fever with crucial plays when they were required. Statistics weren't just numbers on a page to Hull. They served as confirmation. The first 2 years had been difficult for her. Despite her tireless efforts, her shooting percentages did not show it. Every miss felt like a loss. When you were only taking 1 or 2 threes every game, the data now portrayed a different narrative, with better rhythm and constant minutes. She became much more efficient. Her ambitions were fueled, and she was held accountable by the statistics, which became milestones. Above all, they demonstrated her belonging. Wins were piling up. Self-assurance increased. Their connection, however, was what really made this Fever squad stand out. When times got hard, they remained strong. Following a poor game, they didn't turn on one another. Rather, they leaned closer, clasped hands, and supported one another during the difficult passages. It was difficult to overlook that unity. It was seen by fans. The opposition sensed it. The Fever were actually creating something instead of merely competing for the first time in years. Fever games had felt quiet, even solitary for years. Arenas were electrified now. Even away games seemed celebratory, while home games buzzed like playoff matchups. Fever supporters filled arenas to the brim, chanting, waving signs, and causing moments that made players shudder. It was indescribable, according to Hull. Not only was it thrilling to perform in front of a packed house, but it was also reassuring. Once in need of a winning club, Indianapolis was thriving once more. The number of people who came forward to claim they had been cheering her on the entire time shocked Hull the most. Supporters were strangers. Now, those who had silently followed her journey came out to express their pride and their belief in her. It was powerful, humble, and heartfelt. Even though she couldn't hear them, the entire town had been supporting her, and Hull understood she wasn't alone in her struggle. It was more than just Hull getting her shot back. The Fever wanted to rewrite their future. Hull's developing role, Mitchell's goals, and Clark's leadership came together to create something greater than the sum of their individual parts.
What are your impressions of Caitlin at this point?
She's great. She's a great player, great person. Obviously very hard to defend, so she's bringing a great.
The Fever were no longer merely trying to qualify for the playoffs. They were creating a culture, an identity, and a ceiling that no one had ever dared to dream about. How far could they go? Was the only question that remained. The chemistry was as strong off the court. Hull started the amusing pre-game custom of changing clothes with teammate Erica Wheeler. It was made funnier by the stark contrast in their styles. It was only a joke at first. To everyone's astonishment, Hull managed to pull it off, and it stayed. It evolved beyond style. They used it as a chance to decompress, have a good laugh before work, and remind themselves that basketball is meant to be enjoyable. That balance, fierce on the court, playful off it, made the Fever a joy to watch. A new identity. One of the WNBA's most talked about teams these days is the Indiana Fever. This team was cast off as a failure not too long ago since they were having trouble winning games and much more trouble getting attention. In the present day, the Fever are not only packing venues, but also making headlines. What was different? A combination of leadership, tenacity, and the introduction of Caitlin Clark, a generational talent. However, the story is about a whole cultural movement, rather than just one player. The Fever are undoubtedly playing in the league's most intense spotlight. The moment Clark arrived, everyone's attention was drawn to her. Previously uninterested WNBA fans were now hooked to Fever games. It was a whole other reality, with sold-out audiences, lively stadia, and millions of people interacting online. But pressure accompanied all that attention. Social media turned both a help and a hindrance. The unending praise boosted confidence on good days. It felt like an extra burden to sift through comments on bad days. Especially after difficult defeats. It could hurt to be criticized. It's tough to ignore entirely, even for the most concentrated sportsman. Inside the Fever locker room, something special happened. It evolved into a haven rather than only a forum for discussing tactics. The players established a culture based on accountability and sincere trust, rather than allowing outside noise to infiltrate. They reminded one another of the good things in life. They pushed each other to continue focusing on resilience and growth. They were able to endure the mental strain of being the most watched team in the league, thanks to this closeness. The camaraderie that resulted gave Indiana the much-needed advantage, not just chemistry. This change demonstrated that the Fever was doing more than merely surviving the limelight. They were gaining ownership over it. For Lexie Hull, the journey mirrored the Fever's transformation. Once a 6th overall pick expected to shine immediately, she battled inconsistency and minutes on the bench. Many wrote her off, but she refused to give up. Her patience, her grind, her willingness to seize opportunities, those qualities paid off. By the time this season hit its stride, Hull had re-emerged as a vital piece of the team. She wasn't just contributing, she was thriving. Her story became proof that resilience can flip any narrative. And Hull herself has been quick to admit something important. Caitlin Clark was the spark that lit the fire. Clark is more than simply another celebrity. She is a natural power. The Fever's identity has been totally transformed by her ability to dominate on the court while uplifting everyone around her. Clark's entrance meant more to Indiana than just making spectacular plays or scoring points. It indicated validity, vigor, and prominence. The Fever were suddenly a must-watch basketball team, not simply another rebuilding squad. Arenas were crowded, TV viewership skyrocketed. Rival athletes acknowledged that Clark's presence had improved the league as a whole. She also motivated teammates in Indiana, including Hull, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, to improve. Clark became a part of the movement more than just a celebrity. This Fever comeback is so motivating because it goes beyond just winning. The goal is to create a persona that supporters can trust. Excuses were replaced by accountability. Empty seats were replaced by sold-out crowds. The culture of the team changed from one of survival to one of empowerment. They started playing for more than just themselves. They started playing for the WNBA, the city of Indianapolis, and the upcoming generation of young athletes. The Fever now stands for more than just basketball, as Hull aptly stated. The Fever is poised for success in the future. Hull is doing well. Clark is taking center stage, and celebrities like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston are poised to take center stage. With a growing fan base and the potential for elite coaching expertise, the Fever are poised to become a dynasty. The league itself is changing. The Fever will continue to expand in tandem with the WNBA's growth due to increased competition, increased visibility, and increased opportunities. Although the coming period seems uncertain, it is precisely what makes it so fascinating. The ascent of the Indiana Fever is quite astounding. They have demonstrated that resiliency and solidarity can rewrite any story, going from a faltering franchise to a rising force. The Fever are no longer the underdogs thanks to Caitlin Clark at the forefront, Lexie Hull succeeding, and a culture based on accountability and trust. They are the team that everyone is keeping an eye on. What do you think? Did Caitlin Clark really save her career, or was it just Lexie's grind all along? Lexie Hull's comeback is evidence that one celebrity can start a movement. Tell us in the comments section below. Remember to subscribe and enable notifications for more inside tales. You won't want to miss what comes next.